Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Three Questions with. I'm really delighted today to have Jon Dale with us, who is the Strategic Corporate Affairs and ESG lead at Punch Pubs and Co, which is a great job title for the first question. So looking forward to that. How you doing, Jon?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, nice to chat, James. I've seen a lot of these on your social media platforms, so it's nice to actually be involved in one, actually, and I'm looking forward to having a chat.
I know you're a very busy man, particularly with Budget Week coming up, so I'm very grateful for you taking time to do
No,
it.
no problem at all.
Excellent. Well, let's
Mhm.
get into it. So you're probably aware, but the first question is that
Yes.
sort of dreaded networking question where someone turns to you and says, "So wait, what do you actually do?"
I've had that many, many, many times over the years. Yeah, it's an interesting one, really. I think, contrary to what my kids think, whenever my kids come back from school and said, I had a really into conversation, Daddy, with someone at school today, and they asked me what my daddy does. And they say, I told them that you work in a pub. I said, I do a little bit more. And then I try and explain a little about what I do, and they just completely go blank and lose interest very quickly. So it's an interesting one, actually, as we all know, in the whole comms corporate affairs arena. When you try and explain what you do, either some people get it, some people just look longingly and blankly at you, and then you kind of
Yeah.
move on to the next
At
conversation.
least your
But
kids
I
don't
think
think you do marketing, right? That's a win.
marketing, comms, PR, doesn't it all blur into one? But yeah, I think so. What do I do? Yeah, so I'm strategic corporate affairs ESG lead for Punch Pubs and Co. I've been with the business 4.5 years now. I've been in hospitality for about 12 years. We are one of the largest pub companies in the UK, and essentially I'm the bridge between our organisation and the outside world. So my role is very much about shaping how we're perceived by government, media, key stakeholders, and the public as well. So I think when I strip it back, James, I think it's about taking complex issues, turning them into clear, compelling narratives that help build trust and influence policy, really. And I think it's very much about storytelling. You know, I always like to think that I've been a good storyteller and a diplomat at that. I think it's just important that we make sure our voice matters in the conversations that really count.
And it's an important and great story to tell, really. I mean, you were saying just before we came on about the fact
Yeah.
that publicans are all self-employed.
Yeah.
And we're all pretty passionate about pub culture in the UK. It's a bedrock of many of our careers and lives, and really important. So it's a good story to be able to tell.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, there aren't many people that don't have a pub story to tell, and I think that in the current climate, when it's extremely challenging, in my role, are almost speaking on behalf of 1,500 self-employed entrepreneurs, publicans around the country. And it's bloody difficult out there at the minute. It really is. But I think naturally, we've seen pub closures accelerate over the number of years. We're talking about one pub closing a day at the minute. And we know that a pub is much more than just going to the pub and having a few drinks. It's
Huh?
that kind of pillar of the community, or crossroads of the community, as we call it within Punch. And I think that that's the challenge, is that, you lose a pub and you lose a meeting point within a community, within a constituency. And I think post-COVID, the significance of a pub has only been heightened. And I think in this day and age, when the world is pretty mad at the minute out there, it's quite good to come together from time to time and have a laugh and a joke and try and put the worlds to rights. So you lose a pub, you lose that degree of connection. And I think that's what we're trying to champion for, and make the government aware that, if you want to stimulate growth, then ultimately you need to ensure that you support our entrepreneurs, our publicans, and ensure that they are part and parcel of that narrative moving forwards.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for that. What an interesting time to be in the space. But as you said, you've been in and
Yeah.
around the world of hospitality, retail for a number of years. Looking back over your career,
Hmm.
is there a singular piece of advice you'd give your more junior self?
Yeah, I think so. I think you learn a lot, particularly if you get a little bit longer in the tooth. I think that mine would probably be listen more, ask better questions, and don't rush to have all of the answers. I think, that's probably one thing that I've come to realize over the years, particularly as I've gained experience and grown in more senior positions within businesses, is that you need to take time to understand before you respond. I think curiosity is definitely a superpower. I think you need to build relationships that last, and they're the kind of the foundation of both trust and, I would say, opportunity as well. I think Success rarely, I would say, comes from chasing, grand titles. It very much in our space comes from collaboration and empathy and that ability to connect. And I think the ability to adapt and keep learning helps you, and certainly has helped define my career far more than kind of any one single achievement as well. So I think listening is really, really important, even when you think you might have all of the answers.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and it's something that can be it's a bit of wisdom that can be quite hard won when you're fairly junior in your career and in your
Yeah,
twenties,
yeah.
think you know everything and you're indestructible. And I suppose
Yeah.
in some ways it's only when you start managing people or working with very senior people that you see how senior people listen.
I remember actually a quote that always sticks with me, really. It's from Charles Darwin, but one of my old bosses many, many moons ago actually said to me that I think Charles Darwin said it's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. And that has always stuck with me over the last probably 20, 25 years. And I'll always go back to that quote when I think maybe that I'm not listening as much as I should do. I think particularly with the team and, the wider peer network as well, is that, yes, you might, I think as you get more senior and a little bit more experienced in your role, of course, you will have more of a view on various different hot contentious topics. But I always try and make it clear that, I'm always open to listening, seeking to understand, and allowing other people as well to have that degree of autonomy. I think that's really important.
And that connects right back to what you were saying about kind of being the bridge between the organization and the outside world. What is the bridge
Yeah.
there for? It's to help you adapt to change. And that is kind of change is the norm at the moment, unfortunately, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think things are moving at such a fast pace as well, James, that I think, COVID probably played a part in this, is that there have always been frustrations within our industry, comms, corporate affairs, PR. Are we taken seriously? And I think actually, now more than ever, a lot more corporate affairs, comms directors certainly have a voice at the top table because things are moving so quickly and reputation is now more important than ever. And I think if you don't have that voice and you don't have that degree of trust with your CEO, MD, CFO, then it can almost undermine all the work that you and your team are doing on a daily basis. So I think that listening element of the collaboration with the exec and the board, fundamentally helps you define your strategy moving forwards.
Really. Yeah. No, it's really good advice and
Hmm.
something I wish I had done a bit more in the early part of my career as well. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I think there's all of us that probably hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I think that at the same time, sometimes just taking that moment to reflect and pause can really work wonders. And I think again, as you get more experience, you probably try and find time. And I always do that. Everyone is extremely busy. And I think it is important that you do have that time to reflect. Otherwise, you almost feel like you're on a hamster wheel and you feel like you make 2 steps forward and then 1 step back. But I think if you take a minute to reflect and pause and listen, I think it can help define you as an individual as well as your broader team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about that, about working on the business instead of just in the business all the time. It's the
Yeah,
same for your
yeah,
career. At different points, you need to just take a minute and work on your career and on you
absolutely.
rather than
Yeah,
just in it and responding to it.
absolutely right. And I think that is definitely a good point, is that jobs, particularly in our space, are so demanding and so time consuming, and they're not, you never go into comms and corporate affairs if you want a 9 to 5 job. We all
No,
know that. And I think I wish I can't remember what a 9 to 5 job was, to be perfectly honest, but you are on the go all the time, 24/7. And I think they're just, it is very easy to get immersed in the day to day. And as a result of that, you never come up for air. And I think that's where potentially mistakes can be made if you don't take time to pause. And so I think the whole listening side of things is something that I've been working on, working with coaches, working with some of my industry peers, and it does make a massive difference. So that would be one bit of wisdom that I would try and impart on people in similar kind of positions to myself, is if you're not doing it, then you should, without a doubt, because I think it will make you a better person and a more productive person as well.
totally. Brilliant piece of advice. Thank you for that.
No worries.
But if you weren't working in the world of corporate affairs, what would you be doing?
Do you know what? I was thinking about this actually when you sent me the questions, and I this is going to be really random and really bizarre, but I think I would probably be working in MI5 or MI6. That's if they'd have me, of course. But I've always been fascinated by kind of intelligence works, the intrigue, the strategy, the human psychology behind it as well. And I
Ah,
think that started from a very young age. So when I was growing up, I used to love like reading Enid Blyton's Famous Five, Secret Seven books, and then a lot of Michael Connelly's crime fiction. I'll always remember the first one I read of his was The Lincoln Lawyer, which was my absolute favourite. So I think that played a part in that. And I don't you remember, you're probably too young to remember, James, but some of your viewers, listeners will remember Spooks as well, that used to be
I remember Spooks. It was a
kind of
great show.
yeah, on a drama and any spy or detective dramas, books or films. I was really kind of immersed in those. So I think the idea of kind of solving puzzles, uncovering truths really appeals to me. So in a way, it's not so different as well from the corporate affairs world, because both are about information, influence, and impact. So yeah, I think if I wasn't in the corporate affairs world, I think maybe MI5 or MI6 would be right up my street.
When it's similar circles, it's those kind of corridors of power and that space, and
And
yeah,
trust as well. And trust. Yeah, exactly. So I don't think you can really immerse yourself and have the respect of your peers and the superiors unless you have that degree of trust. And don't get me wrong, I was a journalist and then moved into the world of PR on corporate affairs. And I love that. But if there was a moment where I had a little bit of downtime, then reading, particularly, crime fiction, etc., was a real love and passion of mine.
well, frustrated spook, but successful corporate affairs leader. We'll
Yeah, yeah.
take that, John. That's it's a great answer, and I'm really grateful again for your
No
time
problem.
today.
No problem at all. Thanks, James. Anytime.